Hello, welcome to our Diversity and Social Justice video, Student Assistant Edition. My name is Maria Yescas, and I was the Student Assistant for Dr. Grant Kian over at the Communications Department, where we implemented diversity and social justice in communication research.
And my name is Lee Fortune Moore. I was a student assistant for Dr. Shakaria at DSJ, where we implemented and infused diversity and social justice into the sociology department inside of a social psychology course and a research class.
My name is Brian Alexander. I was a student assistant for Dr. Andrew Wong. We implemented diversity and social justice in language and anthropology.
So in this video, we're basically going to be discussing the importance of infusing diversity and social justice into professors' curriculums, no matter what class you're teaching, and the importance of having diversity and social justice within your classroom.
So we created a list of important items that we saw during our experience working with our professors that hopefully are helpful for you when you are looking into incorporating diversity and social justice to your curriculum.
And with that, first on our list is number one, be respectful. It's very important that you have to understand you are approaching your professor in a professional, studious manner, and you want to continue that momentum going forth in the quarter.
Followed by that, students, we want you to understand that there will be different perspectives. And when we say there will be different perspectives, we want you to know that you should learn to agree to disagree. But in the same side, professors, teachers, and instructors, acknowledging and accepting when you're wrong. And by that we mean, if you don't fully understand something that the student is asking, just say, you know what, maybe I am wrong about this, or maybe that's something that you should go research some more or look into before giving them a final answer.
On the same token, we ask you students not to be afraid to ask questions, but we also ask you professors to be humble enough of accepting when you are wrong and you do not know the answer. Yes, we have all degrees, but we are still human and we don't know everything. So we just to be a little bit more humble, accepting, say, hey, I don't know that yet, but let me get that research to you. Let me connect to the individual that might have the answer for you. And that will open a pathway of communication for students.
Moving forward, that also includes being aware of one's own bias. Given the sort of subject matter that can be potentially discussed within classrooms, it's important that you understand where your bias is, what you may necessarily not be so, I guess the word is, you may not be objective. You may react more emotionally, and that's okay. The important thing is to just being able to recognize that within yourself. And it's a hard thing to do. On the second side, or on the flip side of that, professors, we ask that you more or less take the time to research and understand the generation and the cultural challenges that they're facing. Each class is going to be different, and this is a first step to really sort of understanding this. I guess it's very just emotional, very strange sort of potential behavior that can happen in class.
And then going on as well, students, don't enter discussions defensively. If it's a topic, whether you're in a history class or a criminal justice class, and you're like, this topic really hits straight home for you, don't enter into it defensively. Be willing to communicate and engage in the discussion as best as you can. And if you can't, the classroom and the professor should respect your right not to talk or understand that, maybe this isn't a topic for you that you feel comfortable talking about. But in the same token, professors, remember everything's not black and white in the sense that if you're a history professor and you're going over the revolution, you don't know what that's going on in that student's life if they have family members who are actually big members or advocates or enemies during that time period and how that affects them or how it manipulates their world and their society.
We also saw that students, you need to be aware of your resources on campus. Yes, our professors are the ones teaching us our subjects or whatnot, but that's not where the resources end. We have amazing centers here on our campus that also could help you with that extra question that you might have that wasn't answered during your class. But professors, we also ask you to be aware of your bias. Don't just teach what you think that needs to be taught in your curriculum. Be open to including that diversity, not just in color, race, or language, but also in concepts, in cultures, in events. So that will open also students' ability to go to different resources.
Students, this is going to be an amazing time in your life. This is going to be an opportunity to talk about, to have numerous dialogues, different conversations about all sorts of things, topics covered in class. One thing that you need to be aware of, specifically amidst all this discussion, accept other people's differences, accept your professors' different insights. You're going to be looking at different perspectives, not just the ones you're familiar with, but you're going to be going maybe onto having to incorporate different viewpoints, and these viewpoints may not be the most idealized or the most pretty the prettiest aspects of some of the subject matters you'll be looking into. It's important that you maintain a certain amount of acceptance. Make sure that you are allowing other class members to speak their mind, that you are being open to discussion, and that you're incorporating an ideal environment for everybody to contribute to. And that being said, professors, it's your responsibility to teach. Make sure that you guide this conversation, you guide these discussions on appropriate rails. And it's very easy to see a conversation or to see a discussion sort of derail and kind of turn into sort of a hyper emotional debate between students. And we ask that you mentor these moments specifically to kind of ground the students and make sure that we all are on equal footing in terms of expressing our own ideas and opinions.
As we continue forward, we only have about 3 more main points to make, and we know some of these things may seem like contradictory or that it's a really hard balancing act, but that's the really important part about diversity and social justice. It's a really thin line. Like, we're not going to ever be politically correct, no matter how hard we try and achieve. Everyone has a preference for one thing or another, but at least making the strides to be inclusive of everyone is always essential, especially here at California State University of East Bay. We're one of the most diverse universities in the nation, and that's something to be proud of. And even if you're not at a diverse university, professors and students, this is something that you should be advocating for and ensuring that every student leaves their academic institution with this information, this knowledge, so that they can be well-rounded leaders in the future. So as we continue, we just go on to being welcoming to discussion and engaging. Students, if you're not welcome to discussion and engaging, if you're just coming into the classroom like, well, I'm here, teach me, you're not really going to learn anything. It's going to just fly right past you. So keeping those things in mind, read the book, learn from what's going on, ask questions. If you feel like, you know what, I feel this a little more into this, get into those details, and that's how you really have that true learning. Be able to include what you learned in the course material into your life to see where things relate at and have a better connection. But in retrospect, teachers, we want you to, and professors, accept the students' choice not to comment on topics, but do not stop empowering them to speak. We understand that, sometimes we as students, we don't want to talk in the classroom, depending on if we're having a bad day or not. But we still like the fact that you're empowering us to speak, to have that voice in the classroom, because come graduation day, we're going to need to have that voice in society.
Students, when you do engage in your discussions, be aware of your tone. We also are empowering you as students to include social justice and diversity into your way of approaching things in classroom, whether it's discussions, whether it's asking questions, clarifications. You also have to be mindful. It's not just our professors and faculty and staff who are implementing diversity and social justice, but it also us as students that we get to contribute to that culture change. And professors, it's just to be supportive, to be conscious of your words, of how you approach classes. Little details make a huge difference. And if we focus on those things, just tweaking a couple of things in our curriculum, that will also create that empowerment for students to be also part of that culture change that we're promoting.
Students, one of the points Portia made is absolutely true. As hard as we try to be politically correct, it's something that we as a people will never fully be able to achieve, because it begins with a simple concept, and that's asking for clarification, asking for one's information about their culture, where they come from, is probably one of the hardest things to do that you not necessarily conscious of. And that asking goes right back to one of our points in that approach your professors, ask them, make sure that you let them know that you're not getting the information that you're needing, or that you are confused, or that you would like to discuss something during office hours. They're there for you. That's what they're there for. And a lot of times, something as simple as asking or just being made aware are the things that we bypass the most. So it's important to just, suck it up and ask. Make sure that you put it out there that you're not understanding. And it's okay. Professors, we ask that you separate experience from knowledge, and be sure and treat each class experience as its own unique entity, because it is. And there is something to be said about an experienced professor. They're an amazing asset. We all love learning from experienced professors. However, again, like Maria was also saying, that sense of humility, that sense of being humble actually does as much as having an effective, knowledgeable professor. So being able to exercise some compassion, some humility, and just sort of treat each class as its own case study or its own unique example would benefit students a lot.
As you come to a closing, the reason why we as graduate students, former students here at California State University of East Bay are giving this presentation and are making this talk happen is because we really value and appreciate diversity and social justice within not only our education but in our society. And the change starts here. So we're not going to stand up for this. How do we expect others to stand up for this as well? We hope that you utilize any of the topics and points that we have suggested here today in your classroom, in your lectures, in your discussions. You may be wondering, like, you know what? I teach math classes. How in the world am I going to infuse diversity and social justice into my math class? Personally, I hate math. And with that being said, for me, math is a second language. So if my professor has an accent of any sort, it's not to say that they are not an excellent professor, but that makes it 10 times harder for me personally to grasp the material. And then just coming from that diversity and social justice perspective, understanding as a professor, that one barrier that you may think isn't influencing the whole entire class can impact a small population of the classroom. And those are things that, we can work at and tweak. And like we said before, going to resources on campus, going to tutoring, or even going to office hours, talking to your professor, like, you're a great teacher. I understand what's going on in class and whatnot, but because of the social language barriers between you and myself, I'm not able to fully grasp the content that you're going over. And that's like little things you could do to infuse diversity and social justice in the classroom.
Another thing is about just be mindful where we at. Like again, Portia said, we are one of the most diverse campus in the nation, and we need to appreciate that. And if we start incorporating that and saying those words like diversity, social justice, cultural differences, language in our curriculum, that's when we start making that culture change. And you, as professors and staff and faculty, you're the start of that. And then as students, we follow through. So that's what our purpose is here, to point out what our experience was with our professors, what we saw in the classroom, these are the tips. I'm sure that we couldn't cover everything, but these are the highlights of it. Any last words?
We're good. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully you gained something from this video. Once again, my name is Lee Portia Moore. I am currently a second-year graduate student here at California State University East Bay, and I'm a proud supporter of diversity and social justice.
And my name is Maria Yescas. I just completed my master's program in public administration, and it was such an honor to be part of this movement.
My name is Brian Alexander. I am a grad student looking to go back into creative track, and diversity and social justice is important to me just because as a student who experienced all of this, being able to now sort of matriculate into a advocate and a sort of agent, I take it very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is our part 2 of our student assistant video, and we just have a few things that are very important, just kind of tips behind the scenes type of thing, of things to do. It's kind of like etiquette. in the office, or how do they say something like that? So
in the office, consequences of not being inclusive and infusing diversity and social justice.
What not to do during office hours.
Yeah, what our future might look like if we do or we don't infuse social justice and diversity. So our first point is consequences of not having inclusive curriculum. Basically, just shut the door. Students are not engaged. They're just there. They're paying for just to get education. Call it a day. They go out to the world. Guess what? They are just repeating that same cycle, and there's no room for change. So when you do have that moment of that one-on-one with students, get to know them beyond just the books or the lesson or other notes. Get to know them where they're from. Why are they passionate of being in college? Why are they even taking the class besides being required? That kind of just empowers them to network, to get to know you more of a level that you'll be approachable later on.
Especially when it comes with students' majors. For example, if you're going into school and you're undeclared and you have this teacher who's just so passionate and phenomenal about philosophy, you may not really understand philosophy, but you know what? Like, this professor is so amazing, so spectacular. I want to do what they are doing. I want to enter into this field because I love their passion for this field, and I'm starting to love the topic. Like, your lectures, your tone, everything that you're doing in the classroom is influencing what they may decide to do, and vice versa. If you already have declared your major, professors, when students come out to you and stuff like that, talking to them like, okay, like if you're a psychology major, why do you want to be a psychology major? What do you want to do with this degree? For instance, for psychology, there's so many different pathways you can go into, whether you take a clinical route or an industrial psychology route. There's different perspectives you can take, and helping them understand, like, you know, maybe you need to go find an internship. Having that mentorship experience with them beyond the role of professor makes them feel more inclusive within their learning community. And as we all know, life after college is nothing like life in college.
Yeah.
And being realistic professors, we understand that it is impossible to mentor every single child that you come across, or student that you come across, rather. So most importantly, just letting them know that the door is open, that that lifeline is out there, will grant a student to this path to being able to discuss a potential mentorship and what have you, what opportunities are available between the students. So that's important.
During our experience, we did see a couple of issues and assumptions that were made during the classroom. And we just want to say, professors, yes, there's issues, there are assumptions, there's everything, but try to be able to maintain a balance. Sometimes drama is good, but the good type of drama, not the bad type of drama in a classroom. And what that means is just like that, to just have that interaction again. The only way for us to make a change is for us to be engaging rather than just lecturing and be little robots. So understanding that our students are multicultural, that our students have background stories, history, and that they probably do want to share, and you get to learn something new, but also at the same time being conscious of that diversity. I remember during my undergrad work, I had a professor who said, well, enjoy the Mexican holiday, everybody. Not everybody's Mexican. Not every Latino is Mexican, and not every Mexican is Latino. So it's just about understanding those differences of just sometimes not even to make a reference. It's better than making one. So think about those things about our cultural, the triggers that students might have by saying those things. You could go down south. That happens.
And then just feeding off that, we're just going on to saying the wrong thing. We're not saying that you should never talk at all, because then we would never learn anything. What we mean by saying the wrong thing, as Maria mentioned, don't assume like, oh, okay, you're a Mexican. No, you could be Guatemalan, you can be Cuban, you can be Nicaraguan. There are so many Hispanic nations and countries to choose from, as well as different dialects across the span of all those things. To be conscientious of those things, but also retrospect. You also have students with disabilities who are coming to you. If you have vision problems, for instance, if you're having a PowerPoint going on in class every single day and you like to be creative and fancy with your PowerPoints, having like yellow slides with white writing, if you have problems with your vision, a yellow slide with white writing is not viewable. It may look pretty, but it's not going to be appeasing to them because they're just squinting at the screen, not really understanding what it's saying. And then retrospective, you have students who are just from different backgrounds and are not as familiarized or diverse with what's going on in school, whether it's they don't have the greatest writing skills yet. You know, reaching out to them saying, you know, you should check out the writing center or something like that, or letting them know, offering it to your entire class. You don't have to be subjected to one person's needs, and saying, I will look at rough drafts for this 1 week's period if you come see me, or you're welcome to email me these things and we can try to work something out. Having that line of communication is inclusive alone just because they know they can come to you and you're just becoming more approachable as a professor.
And it's very interesting too, just because I have an anecdote too, just in terms of my experiences. I was dealing with a professor, and I did a creative writing workshop, and I was doing a short story, and I didn't necessarily get the feedback that I wanted from my peers, and so my instructor was talking to me, my professor. I met with him during office hours, and he made the assumption that the rest of the class wouldn't understand necessarily where I'm coming from, because what would it be like to be the only black male in the class? And so I walked away from his office hours just kind of confused. I don't necessarily, I didn't take any offense, but I was just, again, confused, and I was operating under the assumptions that is my writing not vocal or not indicative of how black man in a white class would write, and a predominantly white class would write, or is my language not sounding as it should sound? Am I not angry enough? Am I not what? I mean, I'm a creative writer, and things that I like to write about creatively more or less have to do with, not necessarily a struggle in how I was brought up, but more specifically, cosmic energy and nerd stuff like that. So again, professors just being able to, this professor was a great professor in that I was able to speak with him about it, and I did bring it up, and it was an issue that we were able to bring up and, put behind us. However, again, that assumption, working with that sort of assumption, or assuming that a student is a particular way because of some cultural fixations or things that a professor may recognize culturally about the student, may not be the best way to go about things.
Another thing is about also the environment you sit in your office hours, and this goes to both the students and the professors. Students are going in there trying to find some sort of solution or clue of how to navigate your course. So having that inviting space, I'm just gonna say, I've seen some professors that they stand behind the computer and and then the students are like, I'm here, help me. It's about putting that aside, bring that humanistic aspect of yourself. Think about when you were in undergrad or grad school. How that moment when you had that professor that impacted you, inspired you, be that. Like, be that one person that you inspire you so you can inspire other ones. Yes, we live in a society where technology is like, yeah, email me, hey, shoot me a text, blah, blah. But sometimes a face-to-face conversation goes a long way. And you would not know the impact, the huge impact, positive impact that you might create in that student. And students also ask for that space. You have the tool, just as you are learning from the professors, the students, they're learning from you.
And as you mentioned in part one, diversity and social justice is such a thin line in the sense of you can be on the rope, you can fall off the rope, but just remember to just keep back getting on that rope. Try to be inclusive and promote diversity and social justice as much as you can. Try to eliminate making assumptions and things like that, just because everyone is different in their own special way, as we've been learning since the dawn of time. And also consider one of the things, the greatest impact of not infusing diversity and social justice within your curriculum, within your education as a professor or as an institution, is that you're creating the future leaders of tomorrow. in the sense of I've had elderly people that I've worked with in hospices who tell me, like, you know what, my future generation looks this way or it looks that way. Whether you like it or not, when you come to retire, the leaders that you're teaching in your classroom today will be the one making the voting and passing the bills and everything else for your generation when you are older and elderly tomorrow. So keep those things in mind, especially here in California. California is probably one of the most diverse states out of all the states possible, which is, I mean, it's commendable and it's an excellent thing. Everyone loves California because I know I do. But keeping in mind that being as diverse as California is, that means you need to be twice as much hitting the diversity buttons, pushing for social justice. We watch things on TV constantly that will manipulate and influence our reactions to school situations, our beliefs about what's really happening and what's going on. And whether we have institutions who want to hang lynches in their trees or institutions who are not bringing into account how this is affecting the other student populations, taking the time to talk about those things. Because if you don't, you will have schools that are picking on and bullying other minority groups simply because of their ethnicity, their religion, their socioeconomic status, and that isn't right, period. So if we're going to be the land, the home, the free, and the brave, we need to make sure we include the diversity and social justice in our melting pot of America.
Is it going to be easy?
No.
No.
By any means. And sometimes it's going to be that thing, that unattainable object that you're going to have to, it's going to need to be fought for. And Maria and Portia make excellent points. And as a student, having a professor-student relationship, sometimes you're going to have to just go for it. You're going to have to go in and, you know, if you didn't reach them the first time, go in again, make another office appointment. You know, play with things in their office, ask about pictures, ask about books, ask about what they have in their office, bring it out of them. It's, like we said, it's something that needs to be brought out, it's something that needs to be put on the table. But again, sometimes it's not going to be as simple, it's not going to be as black and white, and it's not going to be easy. But as advocates of diversity and social justice, we pass this on to you. This is your trial.
Don't be scared. It's okay. If we don't know what we'll be able to make a movement on if we don't try it. And this is our shot of trying it and trying to start something up here at Cal State East Bay. And this is just our experience. And if we have impacted you, that means we did our goal. We accomplished what we had to do. And so I hope that our part 1 and part 2 was helpful. Again, if you have any further questions, clarifications, you want to meet us, the website has all these different resources and the ways to contact the people that started this movement here at California State University. Thank you once again. Have a good one.